Hello everyone, I'm Philip Carr-Gomm. This is Susie Pearl here with me, and we're in Ibiza at the moment making this recording. And if you've been watching Tea with a Druid, you will know that this is a conversation that's following on from a talk Susie and I have had where she's explained how she was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given 3 weeks to live, and miraculously she healed and is here with us 4 years later and has all sorts of interesting things to say about this experience and beyond that. And so this is a conversation continuing from that. If you haven't heard this part of the story, Susie's done it. You've done a TEDx talk,
I have.
haven't you? Which you can find. I'll give some links in the notes that go with. So you can go to the TEDx talk. You can go to Tea with a Druid and hear the story. But now we're going to carry on our conversation. And Susie, you told us this amazing story, and it was obviously a life-changing moment. Your near-death experience, and then not fulfilling the prediction of the doctor that you had 3 weeks left to go. How has your life changed since then?
I think of my life as before and after this experience. Obviously, it's big news to be told you've got 3 weeks left to live. Get ready. That sends the brain into looking at life differently, inevitably. If I think I've only got so many days left, I'm going to live those days differently than if I think the tunnel goes forever. And so it was a sharp reminder of mortality, really. And that was coupled with me, when I left, my spirit left my body and I was looking down on my body. And I had this expansive situation where I was floating around in the cosmos without the container of my body, and therefore no restrictions, and my consciousness felt massively expanded. When I came back into my body, not only did I get a miraculous instantaneous healing, my tumour in my brain went and there was no scar tissue. This is all documented by Cambridge University Hospital where I was. So I have all the scans beforehand showing this big thing in my brain, and then a short while after the near-death experience of leaving and coming back, a clear scan. So to look at these scans is extraordinary. When I came back, I was very hyper and excited about life. And I think people just thought I was going mentally crazy. I was actually just going mentally to a different place. I found when I came back a few things, that I didn't have any fear. I didn't have fear of dying, fear of anything to do with life. I felt very at peace. I felt very connected to everything. And I became aware, even more than ever, that our words have power, our thoughts have power, and our emotions have power. And I've dug into the research. There's some brilliant scientists doing work on this now, showing how this is true on a science level. But to run your life understanding that every word that you speak, every intention you have for another or for yourself or for the planet has power. And we're not really taught this, so the educational model doesn't really take us into really understanding that. I really understand that now.
And of course that's one of the age-old teachings of the magical tradition, certainly, is that your words have power. You know. And then I think we've reached a rather interesting moment where sort of historically, in the sense that when you understand that and you try to be incredibly mindful of what you say, and you understand that your thoughts and words have power, the risk is that you repress negative thoughts and feelings because you feel that they're bad and they may have a bad influence. And that's where psychology comes along and says, okay, let's work with these, let's work with the shadow, let's allow you to come to terms with negative thoughts and feelings and so on. But in a way so that you're not actually, because you're still sort of emitting them, if you like, but in an underhand way, which is what they talk about passive aggression as a classic example of that. So I think it's really
it's a very
that's
interesting
an interesting
point.
topic.
It's a very interesting point. When I was ill, I was driving everyone mad with my incessant positivity, not least of which that I was going to survive. You know, they were like, "Oh man, she's just really lost it now. She's not going to make it. This is what the doctors are saying," and so I was. Really, my positivity was up front, but it was irritating people beyond. And I realised that, and I had to pull back and keep it a little more sane. But it is so important. It's such an interesting topic that you can't just be positive, even though we know that we're creating that experience of whatever we're thinking about is involved in creating our reality. So we have to deal with the stuff inside, the childhood dramas, the traumas we've experienced through life. And indeed, I at one level, this journey that I undertook with this brain cancer journey, was a massive trauma in my life. However, it's been transmuted into the finest thing that's ever happened to me. I can honestly say that. People go, I'm so sorry you went through that. And I have to be honest and say, I'm not sorry. I'm so grateful.
So how is your life different now?
Well, I very much understand that I'm here for a short time. Every day counts. So my decisions on routines and what I do every day is important. I want to live like I'm proud of the way I'm living, and that I'm packing it. We're meant to be here having joy and fun. And I think in this busy life we've forgotten. You know, we're worn down with the stuff of
the
life.
Humdrum of yes. And we've replaced, often occurs to me, we've replaced the sort of humdrum of, say, having to sort of till the fields and exhaust ourselves with physical work, to exhausting ourselves with the internet, trying to get the verification code for our credit card or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
That becomes our trauma now. And we've lost our hands in the soil, dealing with microbes and being in tune with nature. And in favour of being in tune with technology, which is not good for the soul, it's not good for our deep consciousness. So it's a kind of getting us back into nature, being around. That's why I love Ibiza so much, is because I get a chance to be around plants and trees and nature all the time. The sea is just so cleansing. And so it's important that we deal with our stuff, for sure. And be held and find ways to do that, so that we can investigate the stuff that goes on that makes us feel uncomfortable and traumatized or whatever.
Exactly, and it seems to me that, you know, one of the ways is through acceptance. It's like, you know, accepting one's life, accepting experience,
and seeing it, observing it, and acknowledging it.
Yes.
Not just hiding it and pushing it down and forgetting about it. No, that won't do the trick.
Yes.
We really have to pull it up, because also our traumas are our life lessons. We've come here to learn stuff as a human, and we have these things happen to us that are perhaps traumatizing. However, in there is deep lessons.
And in that lesson, did love have anything to do with it?
Yeah, I think I saw that love really is. It's an old theme. It's the ancient wisdom. Love is all there is.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yes.
I'm a big Beatles fan.
Yes.
Love is all there is. All you need is love.
All you need is love.
All you need is love.
That's right.
And when we get hold of that, it's immensely comforting, but it's also very deeply true.
It's deeply true, and I think it's Michael Pollan in his book How to Change Your Mind talks about how the deep, profound, life-changing insights that people have with mystical experience, and also sometimes with psilocybin or psychedelic experiences, can, to an outsider, sound like Hallmark greetings cards, a truism. It's like, oh, all you need is love. Well, we know that, you know, it's cheesy and all I say. But the reality is, when you experience it yourself, viscerally, actually, it's a profound truth. Yeah. And I'm sorry if it sounds corny, but it's you know,
it is true.
It is true. You know. And one of the most beautiful things when I've been working with groups taking psilocybin in ceremonial context, with with a lot of safety and integrity and all the rest of it, for this company that I've been working for, and at the end of the playlist, 7 hours, as the journey is coming to an end, often we will play "All You Need Is Love."
Yeah.
And you have 20 people in the room who've been through this profound journey, and some of them will have had really difficult medical diagnoses or bereavements or going through various life challenges, but they will have had these experiences of connection and joy, and that it is deeply meaningful to them. Yes.
Before I got ill, I'd done quite a lot of journeying. I'd done experienced ayahuasca, psychedelics, and had that opportunity to go into my deep mind and this kaleidoscopic journeying in this state of realizing there is something much larger than is in front of us in our daily experience, and to trust that. So I'd already kind of seen that. So I used a lot of that insight I brought it into the healing journey.
Now that's very interesting. So you had your psychedelic experiences before your terminal diagnosis
Yes.
and near-death experience.
Yes.
Yes, and what you're saying is that it helped you to maybe to have that experience.
It did.
There's a quote from a saint whose name I've forgotten that goes something like, if you die before you die, then you don't die when you die. Something like that.
Yeah.
And it's better said than that, but that's it. And it's something about if you can go through experiences of letting go and opening to the cosmos, then when your time comes, maybe your journey will perhaps be a little easier because it'll be familiar to you.
And also, Philip, in everyday life, that's true. If we can surrender a little and not grasp or try and direct too much, but rather trust that there's an orchestrated plan that we can lean into, and that we can be looked at. I do believe myself, now I can only speak about my own experience, but I do believe I'm fully looked after, fully taken care of. When I have hiccups in everyday life, like we all do, I know that that's not the end of everything. Rather, there's something in there that I need to learn about and wake up to, for example. But it's a very comforting feeling.
It sounds like from our talk in the Tea with the Druid earlier, when you were talking about receiving the diagnosis that you had a brain tumor, that at some level you accepted it. You didn't accept the doctor's prognosis.
I didn't.
But you accepted the diagnosis because and somehow you said something really interesting. You said something like you said something like you felt okay with it, or you.
I had a knowing.
A knowing.
I had a knowing that it was not my storyline to die right now.
Yeah.
I had more stuff to do. I had books to write. I had conversations to have. I had stories to tell.
Yeah.
It was not my time to go. Excuse me. And I knew that fundamentally and deeply in every cell and molecule of my body. And so when I got this information that this is the doctor, very auspicious doctor's prognosis, and it's not good, I chose to disbelieve this as my own story. So I also believe that we have so much power to heal. Extraordinary. We can do miracles. We all do miracles every day, if only we perhaps notice. For me, I knew that I was in the middle of a miracle, and that I was going to get healed okay. And I knew that fundamentally. And what I do believe now is that it's a time now where we're awakening much more in different ways because of perhaps the difficulties of life and the stresses and the strains, and we've been through this extraordinary global moment in the last few years where we've had to reassess everything. We've been in a mindset of mind change and changing around the way we look at life, which has been quite useful, as dramatic and as painful as it's been for many people. It has put us in a mindset of we can change.
Well, earlier on you talked about how what you went through was traumatic, and yet you wouldn't not have it happen for anything. That it was
the greatest moment of my life.
It was the greatest moment of your life. That trauma. So I wonder, because we as a collective seem to be going through such trauma at the moment. There's the pandemic, and now the war in Ukraine, and all the other wars as well. We mustn't forget that. You see, and the climate crisis. So there's a hugely traumatic moment for people in the world. And what is an interesting question to ask is, well, it all looks horrendous. Is there any good in this? Is there something trying to be born, or
it's when one thing I really learnt when I was up and out of my body. I cannot, for the life of me, it's a funny expression, for the life of me, as human beings, war makes no sense. Damaging the planet makes no sense. And I feel like as a collective, we are waking up to this, sending our sons and our children out to war, front line. My mother's generation, they lost so many children in the trenches, in the front lines of war, real gritty raw war. I can see no merit, purpose for having war in any conceptualization. If we come from a place that we're all one, why would we kill one another? And why are we getting leaders that think that's okay to instruct?
But it is happening, isn't it?
It is happening.
Yes.
But I feel like there is a change happening where people are really questioning in ways they haven't before, perhaps.
I mean, the thing that strikes me is that I don't know whether you find this, but more and more I'm meeting people who have. I don't like this thing of woken up, because it seems sort of elitist somehow. You've either woken up or you haven't, and that's not right. Yeah. But people who are kind of open to this new paradigm and are seeing life in a different way, are connecting to ideas of wholeness and oneness, and so it feels like there's a lot of good stuff around, a lot of incredible initiatives and positive things around, and a lot of sort of awful stuff around as well. And I suppose the choice I've made is really just to focus on the positive, to be aware. Some friends of mine won't even read the news or check out what's happening. There's a part of me that wants to kind of know what's going on and not be a sort of ostrich. But I want to focus on. I feel profoundly optimistic. I mean, I think it's possible that I'm deluded.
Possibly you are. But I agree
with you.
But
do you feel optimistic?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do. I think we are in such an interesting time in history, in culture and society, evolution, everything, where something is happening to our consciousness. For whatever reason this happening at this moment in history, maybe it's at all moments in history, there's a development in this awareness and consciousness. But certainly I could not have this kind of conversation with the people around me a few years back, whereas now it's a much easier conversation, this kind of thing to have and to declare. I didn't tell many people I had this near-death experience because I was getting accused of being nuts, and I wanted to get out of hospital, not for them to
think
lock
this
the
was
door
a byproduct of your
throw the
being
key.
ill or something.
Yeah,
that's right,
I wanted to get out, so I had to look pretty sane. So I kept the lid on a lot of the stuff that I was experiencing. And I think a lot of people who go through major breakthroughs of awareness and so on do so in often in traumatic situations. It almost has to be a big hammer to release this incredible witnessing of whatever it is. And it's never an easy route, but I think so much of it is happening now, and we're now talking globally so easily with the internet. These ideas can get out. In the old days, we'd have to, the ancient texts would be written on some scroll paper and shared from one group to another down the line through the ages. Now we've got the ability to just talk to each other en masse globally so fast.
Exactly, and the sort of the message that I get, or the sort of when I tune in, is not to worry about the world situation, which seems like a cop-out in a way, because the everyday part of me wants to reply, well, you'd have to be mad not to worry, seeing what's going on, but I just find that when I tune in and connect to my, what do you call it, deep self, or not self in a way, because it's sort of beyond self, just dropping in, there's this profound sense of not to worry. And I think if the primal mystical experience is one of unity, of connection, of oneness, then within that oneness there's going to be disturbances, darkness, difficulty. It depends really whether you're a dualist or a monist, I suppose, at some sort of philosophical level. It's like, from my experience, my own experience, and also what I've read as well, the sort of central experience from which my understanding of reality is based, says that all is one. Therefore, all the Putins and the Prigozhins and the climate crisis and everything is somehow contained within that oneness, rather than being counterposed as a sort of equal and opposite dark force. Which, if you were a dualist, you would see it as somehow in some completely ununderstandable way, irrational way. That is contained within something greater, which is all being. Yeah.
Let's flip on to looking at nature, as above, so below. Let's look at how nature performs its wonderful acts. And I go walking and look at flowers and the sacred geometry design of flowers. That reminds me that there is some extraordinary force at work to be able to design the beauty of that flower. Looking at a flower pot there's some flowers in bloom, there's some that are dying and are wilting and are dead. This is the nature of, I think if we look at nature for our solutions and our understanding, the fact that nature is in control, it blooms when it blooms, it goes through cycles of growing, exploding, being its best, and then collapsing and dying and shedding all its leaves. In the same way, we as humans need to embrace all of these different cycles of life. And inevitably, we're going to have times where we go, this is the best time in my life. We're going to have other times where, oh my goodness, I don't understand why I'm going through all this. That's the beauty of life. It's so colourful.
And just accepting the waxing and the waning. I think why at the heart of the Druid tradition, for instance, is the observance of this eightfold wheel of the year, which includes, harvesting, death, rebirth at the winter solstice, travelling around sort of, up to the maximum of creative expression at the summer solstice, and then travelling back, round and round you go. Yeah.
And that we're so influenced by the planetary shifts, emotionally and content-wise, stories, whatever's happening, and the power of ourselves and our consciousness at different times of the planetary positions. We have to take notice of this and become more attuned to this. And I think one of the sad things about we've made many fantastic developments in recent years, and we've had tragic pulling away from the natural world into the world of technology and fast living, and for a lot of people they are no longer connected to any sort of nature. I would vote for us developing a stronger cultural bent where we understand our place in the natural form. You mentioned rebirth, and I want to bring this up as a topic to talk about a story related to this. When I was in hospital, I recovered, thankfully, and all I wanted to do, I kept dreaming. I knew my this area of me, my third eye, and the pictures I was making was going to be one of my most powerful tools to get out of this. And so I visualized what I wanted. What did I want? I wanted to be back in Ibiza. I was in the UK. I wanted to be back in Ibiza, my happy place, with my friends, walking along a beach, smelling the sea air, having the birds fly and listening to the birds' song. That I replayed time and time again. All I wanted to do was come back to this island. The day I got my all clear and you can go, I packed my bags, booked a flight, came straight out the very next day. And I met with friends. It was December time, and we went out for a Christmas drink. I left my home, hadn't been back to my home for about 9 months. And so it was lovely to be back, lovely to see my friends. We went out, had a great night, came back to my house, which is in a forest. As we came up the path, there was this eerie crackling sound. Oh, wow, that's odd. And my senses have become very more attuned now. I heard this crackling sound, and as we pulled into my house, I saw this black smoke coming out my house. My house was burning.
Wow.
Yeah. It was a massive house fire. I think it was some electrical thing that happened. Yeah. I'd been out of the house for such a long time. It hadn't been taken care of. We had a house fire, and it took out everything I owned.
Wow.
I lost in one night.
Wow.
Except one thing.
Yeah.
When I walked into the house the next morning after this mammoth fire, Everything was melted. All the furniture had gone. All my beautiful books gone, except a few, including my Hermetics books and really special things that have got beautiful burnt pages now. There was one thing left in this pile of soot in the house, and it was a tarot card. It was the rebirth card. And if I didn't already know what this event symbolised, they showed it to me in a tarot card. It was rebirth. And my whole body was, woof, okay. So they've stripped my memory I've had my memory stripped of all data, really.
Yeah.
I lost my memory files. So I didn't really have much to think of, to remember, because the cancer took it all. But this was now taking me down to ground zero, where I lost everything. So I had to borrow clothes and basics just to survive. And I became homeless. And this Ibiza community is extraordinary. And I was offered, use my home, here's my home. There's no, it's free at the moment. So I was bouncing from one beautiful home to the other for about 6 months until I finally got myself sorted out and I was able to get my own place again. But this was a rebirth. This was a stripping down of everything to the bare basics.
And finding that's extraordinary. Finding the tarot card.
The tarot card. And I took a photo of it. I have this wonky photo. But I was just, I was just out of hospital. I hadn't really got my senses together yet.
Wow. That is so powerful, Susie. It's almost like it needs, the sign of a good conversation is when it could go on forever, Let's stop there, because I feel that's a really magical moment. It's about when the numinous drops into the mundane, if you like. You have a very concrete, specific experience in the physical world, your house burning down. And then there's this tarot card of rebirth there, and it signals a whole new chapter in your life.
Yeah.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's talk again.
Yes.
And I'm so glad we bumped into each other in that party yesterday.
Me too.
Okay.
Thank you, Philip.
Okay, thank you.